Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to go over the 5 pillars for how to trade the most effective way possible. The first pillar and the most obvious pointer is you want to trade for what you need. Do you need a receiver? Do you need a running back? Where is the weak point in your roster? Because that's what you want to be trading for. The second pillar is you want to trade them for what they need. Do they need a receiver or do they need a running back? Do they need a tight end? You need to ask yourself, does this trade make sense for their team? And do they need what I am offering? So I'm going to use a couple examples here. Now, this team is absolutely stacked. Let's look at his wide receivers first. He has AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and Brandon Ayuk. So for him, receivers are probably off limits. He does not want a receiver with 3 really solid receivers. Now with his running backs, he has Breece Hall, Raheem Mostert, and Kenneth Walker. So also very solid right there. The only thing I wonder about is if Mostert's production is going to go down when A-Chain comes back. So that's a thing for the future, but he's pretty solid for right now. The only thing I really see on this whole roster is he's a little bit shaky at tight end. Cole Kmet and who's his other guy? Gerald Everett. So if you're trying to propose a trade to him, you might have to try to give him a tight end. Okay, here's another example. This guy's pretty stacked at running back. Christian McCaffrey, best in the league. Josh Jacobs, I'd say he's in the A tier, a very good running back as well. Now let's look at his receivers. Christian Watson, who's been underperforming this year. Courtland Sutton, and Deebo Samuel, who's hurt right now. So he's even so bad off that he is flexing a tight end right now. So this guy could easily bite on a wide receiver. Now, the third pillar is don't propose an unfair trade. If the trade is unfair, they're not going to take you seriously. They're not going to try to counteroffer with you or make any kind of deal with you. And they're not going to contemplate trading you at all in the future. So, for example, you're not going to successfully trade DeAndre Hopkins and Rachaad White for Breece Hall and Tyreek Hill. For the most part, you want the trade to be pretty even or a little bit in your favor. I'm not saying you can't rip somebody off, but it's likely going to rub them the wrong way, and they're not going to want to trade with you anymore. Now, here's a side tip for when you're looking to ship players out. Double-digit scoring is appealing to the eye. So if you have a player that's scoring somewhere around 10 to 12 points, I don't know why, but it's just more satisfactory to see those double digits. So, for example, here is Michael Thomas, who only averages 11 points right on the dot. And for some reason, it is just more satisfying to look at this, and this player is more appealing. Just a good thing to be aware of. The fourth pillar is trade while your attempted trade target's stock is low. You're going to have the most success trading for players who have a low stock. So we're going to use Tony Pollard as an example of a low stock right now. 3 out of his last 4 games, he has 9 points, 8.4 points, and 6.5 points. He also hasn't been in the end zone the last 6 games, which is just absurd. So these are the kinds of drop-offs and numbers that you want to be looking for over the last few games when you're attempting to trade for players. The fifth and final pillar is, as well as trading for players with a low stock, you also want to trade for players who have high volume. Now, we'll use Adam Thielen as an example. His stock is too high, so you're not going to be able to get him right now, most likely, but his targets are just absurd. This is the kind of volume you want. 11 targets, 13 targets, 13 targets, 8 targets, 14 targets. In fact, he has 70 total targets this year, and the wide receiver 2, Jonathan Mingo, only has 34 targets. He is more than doubling his targets. You can even go a step further and look at red zone carries and red zone targets, which gives the player a greater chance to score a touchdown for 6 more points. Those are the 5 pillars for trading, and I also have an extra tip. At the end of the season, when your playoffs are about to start, trade away all your depth except for a player or 2 for a safety valve. You aren't going to need 3 or more backup players at the end of the season, and you may be able to improve the value of your team. Also, all your players are going to be off their bye weeks. And one more thing, there's more to trading than just getting what you need for your roster. There's another objective, which is simply improving the value of your team. If you make 5 to 7 trades in the fantasy season and you win each of those trades, even by just a little bit, by the end of the season, your team's value could go from an A to a B. It's like a snake slowly shedding its skin. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if there's any way I can improve my videos or make them more enjoyable to you guys. Peace.